Dog won't stop barking at ancient display and museum. Police arrive and uncover a forgotten secret. Max's sudden bark echoed through the marble halls of Atlanta's Natural History Museum, shattering the pre-opening silence. Sarah Collins instinctively tightened her grip on the leash, but her trusted Belgian Malinois partner wasn't lunging forward. He was frozen in place, eyes locked on the centerpiece of the new Aztec exhibition. "Max, heel!" Sarah commanded, more out of protocol than necessity. In 6 years of partnership, she'd learned to read the difference between Max's reactions. This wasn't excitement or aggression. This was something else. The jade burial mask dominated the display, its ancient features catching the morning light that streamed through the museum's high windows. According to the plaque, it had been discovered in Teotihuacan just months ago, a priceless artifact from a previously unknown tomb. But Max's attention wasn't on the mask itself. His gaze was fixed on the base of the pedestal. "Is everything all right, Officer Collins? Doctor?" Eleanor Matthews hurried toward them, her heels clicking against the polished floor. The museum's curator was a small woman in her 60s, with silver hair pulled into a tight bun and wire-rimmed glasses that caught the light. "I thought we agreed that today's training would be in the East Wing. We were heading there," Sarah explained, watching Max's behavior carefully. His ears were forward, body rigid. She'd seen this posture before, most recently when they'd discovered a hidden weapons cache behind a false wall in an abandoned warehouse. Max picked up on something here. Dr. Matthews adjusted her glasses, a nervous gesture that didn't escape Sarah's notice. "The exhibition opens to the public tomorrow. Everything has been thoroughly vetted and authenticated. I have all the documentation in my office." Another bark from Max, sharper this time. Sarah noticed a slight tremor in the curator's hands. "I'm sure everything's in order," Sarah said, maintaining her professional tone while her instincts screamed that something was off. "But would you mind if we took a closer look? Max is one of our best detection dogs, and if something's catching his attention..." "Of course." Dr. Matthews stepped back, smoothing her already immaculate blazer. "Though I must insist you be careful. That mask is worth millions." Sarah approached the display slowly, letting Max guide her. The dog moved with the precision that had made him legendary in the K9 unit, circling the pedestal until he stopped at its rear corner. Here, his behavior intensified, pawing at the floor, whining softly. Kneeling beside him, Sarah ran her hands along the base of the pedestal. Years of fieldwork had taught her to trust Max's instincts as much as her own. When he'd alerted to a hidden compartment in the airport last month, they'd prevented 20 kilos of heroin from entering the city. Her fingers found it, a nearly invisible seam in the marble base, sophisticated enough to fool the eye, but not a trained dog's nose. "Dr. Matthews, who installed this display?" The curator had retreated several steps, her face pale. "An independent contractor. Mr. Pierce's company handles all our major exhibitions. They're very well respected in the museum community." Sarah stood slowly, noting how the older woman's eyes darted toward the exhibition hall's entrance. "And this seam in the base, that's part of the original design. I need to check the documentation." Dr. Matthews turned abruptly. "Excuse me for a moment." "Ma'am?" Sarah's voice carried the authority of her badge. "I'm going to need you to stay right here while I call this in." The curator froze mid-step. In that same instant, Max's posture changed. He turned sharply toward the hall's far entrance, a low growl building in his throat. Sarah's hand moved to her weapon as a figure appeared in the doorway, tall, well-dressed, with the kind of confidence that came from power and privilege. "Dr. Matthews," he called out, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. "I wasn't expecting to find you here so early." "Mr. Pierce," the curator's voice cracked slightly. "Officer Collins was just conducting a routine training exercise." The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "How fortunate. I'm Gregory Pierce, exhibition coordinator. Is there something I can help you with, officer?" Max's growl deepened. Sarah kept her hand near her weapon, years of experience telling her this was about to become anything but routine. "Actually, sir, I think you can. Would you mind explaining why there's a hidden compartment in this display pedestal?" Pierce's smile didn't waver, but something cold flickered in his eyes. "Hidden compartment? That's a serious accusation. I assume you have proof." "Max is all the proof I need." Sarah unclipped her radio with her free hand. "And once I call this in..." The sound of breaking glass cut through the air as smoke suddenly began pouring from somewhere behind the displays. Pierce's smile turned predatory. "I really wish you hadn't been quite so observant, Officer Collins." Through the rapidly spreading smoke, Sarah caught glimpses of multiple figures entering through side doors. Max pressed against her leg, his training kicking in as they found themselves surrounded. "Last chance to walk away," Pierce offered, his pleasant mask finally dropping. "Some things are better left undiscovered." Sarah's response was to key her radio. "Dispatch, this is K9 Officer Collins at the Natural History Museum. Code 3 requesting immediate backup, possible 10:31 in progress." As if understanding the stakes had just risen, Max's growl turned into a sharp bark of challenge. Sarah felt a grim smile touch her lips as she drew her weapon. Whatever was hidden in that pedestal, whatever game Pierce was playing, it was too late to stop what was coming. The truth, like the ancient eyes of the jade mask, watching silently above them, had already begun to emerge from its long hidden tomb. The smoke cleared to reveal an empty exhibition hall. Pierce and his men had vanished, leaving only scattered glass from the broken smoke grenades. Sarah's backup arrived to find her securing Dr. Matthews, while Max kept watch at the pedestal, his posture still alert for any remaining threats. "You're making a terrible mistake, Doctor," Matthews whispered as Detective Rodriguez snapped handcuffs around her wrists. "You don't understand what you're dealing with." Sarah watched the curator being led away, then turned to the forensics team already setting up around the pedestal. "Nobody touches that compartment until we document everything," she ordered, keeping Max at her side. His ears were still pricked forward, tracking every movement in the room. When they finally opened the hidden panel, Sarah understood why Pierce had been willing to risk such a dramatic escape. Inside, they found a USB drive and a stack of documents. Shipping manifests, bank statements, and photographs showing similar Aztec artifacts being transported across multiple borders. "This goes way beyond art smuggling," Rodriguez said, examining the papers spread across the evidence table. "Look at these numbers. They're using the exhibitions as a front for money laundering." Sarah's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Walk away, Officer Collins. Some doors should stay closed." Max nudged her hand, sensing her tension. She scratched behind his ears, drawing comfort from his solid presence. "Too late for that," she murmured. The next 12 hours became a blur of activity. While the forensics team processed the museum, Sarah and Max followed up on Pierce's known associates. Every location led to another dead end. Offices recently cleared out, apartments suddenly vacant. Night had fallen by the time they pulled up to their last lead, a storage facility on the outskirts of Atlanta. The place was silent except for the distant hum of highway traffic and the occasional rattle of the chain-link fence in the wind. "What do you think, partner?" Sarah asked, watching Max scan their surroundings from the patrol car's back seat. His attention fixed on Unit 23, the one registered to Pierce's company. They approached carefully, Sarah's flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. Max moved slightly ahead, his training evident in every step. When they reached the unit, Sarah noticed something that made her pulse quicken, fresh scratches around the lock. "Atlanta K9, anybody here?" Her voice echoed off metal doors. No response, but Max's behavior changed. He was tracking a scent. The lock clicked open under her key, and Sarah raised her weapon as she rolled the door upward. The beam of her flashlight revealed stacks of crates and packing materials. Museum-grade shipping containers lined one wall, their destination labels showing cities across Mexico and the United States. Max moved purposefully toward the back corner, where a desk held a laptop and scattered papers. Sarah was reaching for her radio when she heard it. A soft click behind her. "I really hoped you wouldn't be this persistent." Pierce's voice came from the darkness beyond her flashlight's beam. "Though I have to admire your dedication." Before Sarah could turn, Max exploded into action. His bark shattered the silence as he launched himself past her. There was a shout, then the sound of a body hitting the ground. Sarah spun to find Pierce pinned under her partner, a pistol with a silencer skittering across the concrete floor. "Good boy," Sarah said, keeping her weapon trained on Pierce as she kicked his gun away. Max maintained his hold, a low growl rumbling in his chest. "You have no idea what you're interfering with," Pierce spat, blood trickling from where he'd hit the ground. "This is bigger than you can imagine." "Maybe," Sarah agreed, reading him his rights as she secured his wrists with handcuffs. "But that's what we do. We dig up buried secrets." The storage unit became a whirlwind of activity as backup arrived. While evidence technicians photographed and catalogued the shipping containers, Sarah noticed Max's attention drawn to one crate in particular. Following his lead, she found another hidden compartment. Inside was a laptop and a thick folder labeled "Contingency." The documents revealed a network that stretched from Atlanta to Mexico City, involving museum officials, customs agents, and government representatives on both sides of the border. "Holy shit," Rodriguez whispered, looking through the files. "This could bring down half the art world." Sarah's phone buzzed again. This time the message was from her captain. "My office, first thing tomorrow. Alone." Max pressed against her leg, and she felt his warmth through her uniform. 6 years of partnership had taught her to read his signals as clearly as any humans. He sensed her unease about the captain's message and shared it. "What do you think they're trying to hide, boy?" she asked softly, watching the evidence team continue their work. Max's only response was to move closer, his eyes fixed on the entrance as if expecting more trouble. Sarah looked at the jade mask in one of the crime scene photos, its ancient eyes seeming to hold secrets darker than she'd imagined. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for tonight, they'd struck the first blow. Pierce was in custody, and they had evidence of a conspiracy that spanned continents. But as she watched another unmarked vehicle pull up outside, this one bearing federal government plates, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they'd only scratched the surface. Whatever was really behind that mask and its elaborate transport network, someone powerful wanted it kept quiet. Max's subtle growl told her he'd noticed the new arrivals too. Together, they watched the agents approach, both sensing that the real battle was just beginning. Sarah's hand hovered over Max's head in the pre-dawn darkness of her apartment, his breathing steady as he slept beside her bed. The captain's summons wasn't for another 3 hours, but sleep had become impossible after the events at the storage facility. Her mind kept drifting back to another night, 4 years ago, when everything in her life had changed. The warehouse explosion had taken her partner Tom Rodriguez and nearly ended her career. She could still smell the smoke, feel the heat of the flames as she'd crawled through the debris. The drug cartel had known they were coming. Someone had tipped them off. Tom had paid the price for that betrayal. Max shifted in his sleep, letting out a soft whine as if sensing her dark thoughts. Sarah smiled despite herself. She hadn't wanted another partner after Tom, hadn't trusted herself to lead anyone else into danger. Then the K9 unit supervisor had called about a Belgian Malinois who'd just completed advanced training. "He's different," Captain Martinez had said, "like you. Doesn't trust easily, but when he does, it's absolute." Their first meeting hadn't gone as planned. Max had ignored the treats she offered, studying her instead with an intensity that seemed almost human. It wasn't until she'd turned to leave that he'd moved, pressing against her leg as if he'd made his decision. A car door slammed outside, jolting Sarah back to the present. Max was instantly alert, moving to the window with practiced silence. Through the blinds, they watched an unmarked SUV idle across the street before driving away. "They're watching us, boy," Sarah murmured. Max's low growl confirmed her suspicion. Her phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. "Last warning. The captain will offer you a deal. Take it." The memory of her first case with Max surfaced, sharp and clear. A missing child taken by her non-custodial father. The other officers had cleared the abandoned factory, but Max had insisted on checking one more time. They'd found a hidden basement room. The girl scared, but unharmed. That day had taught Sarah to trust Max's instincts without question. Now, those same instincts had led them to something big enough to attract federal attention. The jade mask was just the tip of something deeper, darker. The shipping manifest they'd found showed a pattern spanning years, artifacts moving between countries, massive amounts of money following impossible paths. Sarah pulled out the case file she'd brought home, spreading photos across her kitchen table. Max padded over, resting his head on her lap as she worked. The mask's empty eyes stared up from one photo, and she remembered Dr. Matthews's words. "You don't understand what you're dealing with." But maybe she did. The pattern was familiar, just like the warehouse explosion that killed Tom. The same shadows moving in the background, the same sense of powerful forces working to keep secrets buried. Her laptop chimed with an encrypted message from Detective Chen in cybercrimes. The USB drive from the pedestal had yielded results. A complex network of shell companies, all leading back to a name she knew too well. Santiago Ruiz, the cartel boss they'd been hunting the night Tom died. Max's head lifted suddenly, his attention focused on the door, seconds before the knock came. Sarah's hand moved to her weapon, but the familiar voice that followed relaxed her slightly. "Sarah, it's Martinez." She opened the door to find her old supervisor looking grave. "Captain, it's 5 a.m. "They're making their move," Martinez said, stepping inside. His eyes went to the case files on her table. "The feds are taking over the investigation. They're shutting us out." Max moved to stand between them, not threatening but watchful. He'd never fully trusted Martinez, even though the captain had brought them together. "This goes back to Ruiz, doesn't it?" Sarah asked, watching Martinez's reaction carefully. "The cartel's using the artifacts to move money." The captain's face gave nothing away. "What you found, it's bigger than Ruiz, bigger than any of us." He pulled out an envelope. "There's a task force position opening in Denver. Clean slate, fresh start. The recommendations already written." The meaning was clear. Walk away, forget what they'd found. Sarah felt Max press against her leg, solid and unwavering. She remembered that first meeting, the way he'd chosen her, the way they'd chosen each other. "Tom used to say something about buried secrets," Sarah said quietly. "The truth always finds its way to the surface. It just needs someone willing to dig." Martinez's expression softened with something like regret. "They won't let you pursue this. Not after what happened to Tom. They don't have a choice." Sarah nodded toward the evidence spread across her table. "We've already started digging." The captain studied her for a long moment. Then Max, "You know what happened to Tom wasn't your fault." "No," Sarah agreed, her hand finding Max's fur. "It was theirs, and now we have a chance to make it right." Martinez moved toward the door, pausing with his hand on the knob. "Watch your back, both of you." His eyes met Sarah's. "The captain you're meeting later, he's not one of us. Not anymore." After he left, Sarah sank into a chair, the weight of everything pressing down on her. Max rested his head on her knee, offering the silent support that had gotten her through the darkest days after Tom's death. "What do you think, partner?" she asked softly. "Ready to dig up some more secrets?" Max's tail wagged once, decisive. Sarah smiled, remembering all the cases they'd solved together, all the times his instincts had proven right. Whatever they were facing, they'd face it together. The sun was rising over Atlanta, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. In a few hours, they'd meet with a captain who'd tried to bury the truth, but Sarah and Max had become experts at uncovering buried things, at bringing darkness into the light. And this time, they had something even more powerful than evidence. They had each other. The meeting with the captain went exactly as Martinez had warned. But Sarah noticed something else during the tense exchange. A familiar jade pendant hanging from the captain's neck, identical to fragments they'd documented in Pierce's storage unit. Now, 12 hours later, Sarah's apartment door hung open, the lock professionally picked. Max entered first, his training taking over as he cleared each room. The place had been searched thoroughly, drawers emptied, furniture moved, but the intruders had known exactly what they were looking for. Her backup hard drive was gone, along with the physical copies of the shipping manifestos. On her kitchen table, where her case files had been spread out that morning, sat a single jade pendant, a message that couldn't be clearer. "They're not even trying to hide anymore, are they, boy?" Sarah muttered. Max's low growl matched her mood. Her phone buzzed. "Detective Chen, you need to see this. Now." 20 minutes later, they pulled into the precinct's parking garage. Chen was waiting by the elevator, his usual calm demeanor shaken. "Dr. Matthews is dead," he said without preamble. "Apparent suicide in her holding cell." Sarah felt her stomach drop. "When?" "An hour ago, but that's not the weird part." Chen led them to his computer, where security footage played on the screen. "Watch her last visitor." The grainy video showed a well-dressed woman entering the cell. Even with the poor quality, Sarah recognized Dr. Eleanor Matthews's face. But it wasn't the curator. This woman moved differently, carried herself with a cold confidence. "Facial reconstruction," Chen explained. "High-end stuff. Someone wanted us to think the real Dr. Matthews killed herself. Where's the real curator? That's why I called." Chen pulled up another video, this one from a gas station security camera. This was taken 3 hours ago. The footage showed the real Dr. Matthews being forced into a black SUV. Before the car pulled away, the camera caught a clear shot of the driver, the captain who'd tried to shut down Sarah's investigation that morning. Sarah's phone buzzed again. This time, it was a video message from an unknown number. The screen showed Dr. Matthews, terrified but alive, holding today's newspaper. A voice off camera spoke in Spanish, but Sarah didn't need a translation to understand the threat. "They're going to kill her," she said quietly. "There's more." Chen pointed to his screen. "That USB drive you recovered. Most of it was encrypted, but we found coordinates. Some kind of meeting happening tonight at the old Riverside warehouse district." Max's ears perked up at the location. Sarah felt the same chill. It was too close to where Tom had died. "They're baiting us," she said. "Obviously." Chen handed her a printout. "But look at these shipping schedules. Whatever they're moving through those warehouses, it's happening tonight. After that, all their Atlanta operations go dark." Sarah studied the documents, Max a steady presence at her side. If they moved now, they might catch the whole network. But the warehouse district was a maze of blind corners and ambush points. Her phone buzzed one more time, a message from Martinez. "They took my daughter. Don't trust anyone at the precinct." "Chen," Sarah said carefully. "Who else knows about the coordinates?" His expression told her everything. "I had to report it." "Protocol." Sarah nodded, already moving toward the door. "Come on, Max." "Sarah, wait!" Chen called after her. "The captain's organizing a raid. Full tactical team." "Good luck with that," she called back, knowing they had maybe an hour before the corrupt officials could mobilize their people. In the car, she pulled up the warehouse coordinates while Max watched from the back seat, alert and ready. They'd need help, but with the precinct compromised, their options were limited. Her phone rang, an international number. Sarah hesitated, then answered on speaker. "Officer Collins." The voice was female, heavily accented. "You've caused quite a problem for my organization." "Who is this?" "Someone who shares your interest in justice. Check your email." Sarah's phone pinged with a new message containing a single video file. The footage showed the captain meeting with Santiago Ruiz himself, exchanging documents and jade artifacts. "Why are you helping me?" "Let's say Senor Ruiz and I have competing interests in the antiquities market. I'd prefer he not monopolize the trade routes through Atlanta. You're with a rival cartel. I'm offering you a chance to shut down his entire operation. The real Dr. Matthews is being held at Warehouse 17, but you'll need to move quickly." The line went dead. Sarah looked at Max in the rearview mirror. His posture was rigid, ready for action, just like the night they'd found that missing girl. She had no way to verify the caller's information, no backup she could trust. But Dr. Matthews was running out of time, and this might be their only chance to bring down the network that had killed Tom. The warehouse district loomed ahead, its abandoned buildings casting long shadows in the setting sun. Sarah parked in a blind spot she remembered from old surveillance operations, her mind racing through options. Max's sudden alertness made her turn. A figure emerged from the shadows. Martinez, alone and unarmed. "They have my Christina," he said simply. "I can get you inside, but after that..." Sarah studied her old supervisor, remembering how he'd brought her and Max together, how he'd always looked out for them. "You know this is probably a trap." Martinez nodded grimly. "Probably. But it's the only play we've got." In the back seat, Max let out a soft whine, not fear, but anticipation. Sarah checked her weapon, then the backup piece at her ankle. Trust had gotten Tom killed, but so had hesitation. "Warehouse 17, she said. "That's where they're holding Dr. Matthews. And my daughter." Martinez's face hardened. "We go in quiet. Get them out first. Then we worry about Ruiz." Sarah looked at Max, saw the same determination she felt. Whatever waited for them in that warehouse, they'd face it together. The sun dipped below the horizon as they moved out, three shadows slipping between buildings. Somewhere ahead, a jade mask's empty eyes watched their approach, its ancient secrets about to be exposed one way or another. Warehouse 17 loomed before them, its rusted walls bearing scorch marks. Sarah, Max and Martinez crouched behind shipping containers, watching armed guards patrol the perimeter. The autumn night air carried the scent of rust and river water. "3 on the ground, 2 on the catwalks," Martinez whispered, night vision binoculars steady in his hands. "Loading docks clear." Sarah nodded, feeling Max tense beside her. He'd caught a scent. His head turned toward the warehouse's side entrance. 6 years of partnership had taught her to read these signals perfectly. When Max went still like this, trouble wasn't far behind. The heavy metal door creaked open, and Pierce emerged with 2 guards, his museum curator's refinement replaced by tactical gear. His movements were sharp, nervous, a man who knew he was running out of time. Max's ears suddenly pricked forward. A moment later, Sarah heard it too, a girl's muffled cry from inside. Martinez started to move, but Sarah grabbed his arm. "Wait," she whispered. "That's what they want." More guards emerged from the shadows, taking positions that would trap anyone approaching. This wasn't just a hostage situation, it was a carefully staged ambush. Sarah counted 4 more armed men moving into covering positions. "Christina's in there!" Martinez hissed, his voice thick with fear and rage. "And Dr. Matthews, and we're no good to either of them dead." Sarah turned to Max. "Find us another way in, boy." Max moved silently through the shadows, leading them to a maintenance ladder. Above, a broken window gaped in the warehouse wall. The rusty metal rungs creaked softly under their weight as they climbed. Through the window, Sarah could see the warehouse interior. Stacks of crates filled the space, their museum markings visible in the dim light. Near the center, a makeshift office had been set up with security feeds. There, tied to chairs under harsh fluorescent lights, were Dr. Matthews and Christina. Pierce paced nearby, checking his watch repeatedly. "Ruiz is coming," Martinez whispered, his eyes fixed on his daughter. "That's why they're so jumpy." Sarah nodded, analyzing their options. The cartel boss would want to handle this personally, which meant they had minutes at most. "Martinez, you get the hostages. Max and I will..." A black SUV pulled up outside, its headlights cutting through the gloom. Santiago Ruiz stepped out, flanked by guards, walking straight to Pierce with the confident stride of a man used to ordering deaths. "Now," Sarah breathed. While they're distracted, they split up, Martinez moving toward the hostages while Sarah and Max circled the upper catwalk. Below, Ruiz examined the jade mask Pierce handed him. The artifact seemed to catch what little light there was, its ancient features watching the scene unfold. Max suddenly froze, growling low in his throat. Sarah turned to see the corrupt police captain emerge from shadows, weapon raised. "That's far enough, Collins. Should have taken the deal." Everything happened at once. Max launched himself at the captain as Sarah dove for cover. Gunfire erupted from below, echoing off metal walls. Through the chaos, Christina screamed. Sarah rolled to her feet, firing at guards rushing up the stairs. Max had the captain pinned, his gun skittering away across metal grating. Below, Martinez traded shots with Ruiz's men while trying to reach the hostages. Pierce appeared on the opposite catwalk, weapon ready. "It's over, Officer Collins." His words cut off as Max released the captain and charged. Pierce fired, but Max was already moving. They went down together, Pierce's gun falling to the concrete below. Sarah quickly cuffed the captain to the railing. More gunfire erupted. Martinez had reached the hostages, but Ruiz's men had them surrounded. "Sarah!" Martinez called over the chaos. "A little help!" She moved to the railing, calculating angles. Ruiz stood exposed, clutching the mask like a talisman. 4 guards had Martinez pinned behind crates, with Dr. Matthews and Christina caught in the crossfire. "Max, clear!" Her partner immediately disengaged from Pierce. Sarah aimed carefully and fired twice at the mask. Ancient jade shattered across the floor. The cartel boss's shock gave Martinez his opening. He tackled Ruiz as Sarah provided cover fire. Max prevented Pierce's escape through a roof access. "Police, nobody move!" Chen's voice boomed through a megaphone as tactical teams breached the doors. The next few minutes were controlled chaos. Ruiz and his men were secured. Pierce was brought down in cuffs. The corrupt captain watched silently as his career ended. Christina ran to her father, tears streaming down their faces. "Doctor." Matthews was escorted to paramedics, already providing details about the operation. "Sarah," Chen approached the scattered mask pieces. "You just destroyed a priceless artifact." "No," she said, watching Max nose through fragments. "I destroyed a fake. The real one's still in storage with all the evidence." Max found what she expected, a hollow compartment containing micro SD cards. "They used the fakes to transport data," Sarah explained. "Account numbers, contacts, blackmail material. Everything documented," Chen whistled. "That's going to take down a lot of people." "Yes," Sarah agreed, watching Ruiz being led away in handcuffs. His empire of secrets was finally crumbling. Max pressed against her leg as she checked him for injuries. He seemed fine, tired but satisfied, like he knew they'd done good work tonight. "When this goes public," Chen said, "there's going to be heat from powerful people." Sarah scratched Max's ears. "Let them come. We'll be ready." The warehouse filled with officers and technicians. Through a broken window, dawn touched the Atlanta skyline, painting the city gold. Max's tail wagged once. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. Sarah stood in Atlanta's courthouse 6 weeks after the warehouse raid, watching Max's reflection in the polished marble floor. Her partner sat perfectly still beside her, but his ears tracked every movement in the crowded hallway. Some habits never changed, even on days like this. "The grand jury's still deliberating," Martinez said, approaching with 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Sarah. "But with the evidence we recovered, it's looking good." The investigation had revealed the full scope of Ruiz's operation. The cartel had been using museum exhibitions as cover for an international money laundering scheme. The fake artifacts, carefully crafted with hidden compartments, moved sensitive data across borders, while their authentic counterparts disappeared into private collections. "How's Christina doing?" Sarah asked, noting the dark circles under Martinez's eyes. "Better. The counseling's helping." He managed a tired smile. "She's thinking about becoming a K9 officer, actually. Says Max inspired her." Max's tail thumped once against the floor at the mention of his name. Sarah smiled, remembering how he'd stayed close to Christina during her initial statement, somehow knowing she needed the comfort. The courthouse doors opened, and Dr. Matthews entered with her attorney. The former curator looked different now, stronger, more determined. Her testimony had been crucial in untangling the web of corruption that stretched from Atlanta to Mexico City. "Officer Collins," she extended her hand. "I thought you should know. The Mexican government is establishing a new task force based on our case. They're calling it Operation Guardian. Before Sarah could respond, Chen burst through the doors, slightly out of breath. They're back. Juries reached a decision. The courtroom filled quickly. Sarah took her place in the gallery, Max a steady presence at her feet. Pierce sat at the defense table, his confident facade finally cracking. Behind him, Ruiz's empty chair spoke volumes. The cartel boss had already been extradited to Mexico to face additional charges. Judge Montgomery entered, her robes rustling in the expectant silence. "Will the defendants please rise?" Sarah watched as Pierce and the corrupt captain stood. She thought of Tom, her former partner, wondering if he'd finally get justice through this twisted path that had started with a dog barking at a display case. The indictments were comprehensive. Money laundering, trafficking in stolen antiquities, conspiracy, obstruction of justice. As the judge read each count, each guilty verdict, Sarah felt the weight of the past months lifting. The additional evidence recovered from the defendant's properties has led to 37 new indictments, the judge continued. This court commends the dedication of the officers involved, particularly the K-9 unit, whose initial discovery broke this case. Max's tail wagged slightly at the praise, though his posture remained professional. Sarah scratched his ears, remembering all the moments that had led them here. The first bark in the museum, the chase through the storage facility, the final confrontation in the warehouse. Outside the courthouse, reporters clustered with cameras and microphones. Sarah let Martinez handle the press, while she and Max slipped away to their patrol car. They had a city to protect, and somewhere out there another case was waiting. "Ready for work, partner?" she asked, opening the back door. Max jumped in, alert and eager as always. Through the window, Sarah could see the Atlanta skyline shimmering in the morning sun. The jade mask had been returned to Mexico, but its empty display case in the museum now held something more valuable. The story of how a dog's instincts had uncovered an international conspiracy. Chen was waiting at their usual coffee spot, case files spread across the table. "You're not going to believe what we found in Pierce's offshore accounts," he said as they approached. "Looks like Atlanta wasn't their first operation." Sarah smiled, feeling Max press against her leg. Some people thought police dogs were just tools, highly trained but ultimately simple instruments. But Sarah knew better. In 6 years of partnership, Max had taught her that the strongest bonds weren't about training or duty. They were about trust, about the quiet understanding that came from facing danger together. About knowing that sometimes justice needed more than human eyes to find it. "What do you think, boy?" she asked, watching his ears perk up at Chen's files. "Ready to dig up some more secrets?" Max's tail wagged once, decisive as ever. Whatever came next, they would face it as they'd faced everything else, together, guardians of a city that never ran out of mysteries to solve. Behind them, the courthouse clock struck 9, marking the start of another shift. Sarah and Max walked to their patrol car, ready for whatever call came next. The morning sun caught their badges as they moved. One metal, one cloth, both symbols of a partnership that had become legend in the Atlanta PD. They had a city to protect, more mysteries to solve, more wrongs to right. And they would do it together, one case at a time, with the kind of dedication that could only come from absolute trust between partners. Max settled into his spot in the back seat, alert and ready. Sarah started the engine, smiling at his reflection in the rearview mirror. Some partnerships were formed by chance, others by choice. Theirs had been both, a twist of fate that had brought together two guardians who were stronger side by side. The radio crackled with their first call of the day. Sarah put the car in drive, feeling that familiar surge of purpose. Together, they merged into Atlanta's morning traffic, ready to write the next chapter in their continuing story.